Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody can hear me and see my screen okay. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Spotlight Series training on email recording with LinkPoint Connect. My name is Jill McConaughey and I'm LinkPoint 360's Director of Marketing and Client Relations. I also have our Professional Services Manager, Jana Vovcik, and she's on the line with me to help with questions along the way. And we're both very excited to have all of you join us. I know there's some familiar names on the screen. I have the panel going here. So it's good to see some folks that we've been working with for quite a while join us today. So before we start, I do want to review a few quick items for everyone. All attendees are muted and placed in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. But if you have questions for us today, feel free to type them up and send them over. There's a questions section in the GoToWebinar panel. We are going to start with a full review of email recording. So I encourage you as we go along to keep your questions in mind, but wait a little bit and see if we happen to address those questions along the way. We are going to open it up at the end of the presentation for a Q&A session. So we're definitely going to try to address as many unique use case scenarios or questions that you might have. We're just going to do that toward the end of the presentation. We are also recording this training, so I will make sure to send a copy of the recording out as soon as it's available, either later today or early tomorrow. Another housekeeping item that I want to touch on very briefly has to do with upgrades. So we're going to be demoing today with our most current version of LinkPoint Connect for PC desktop installation. You've probably heard us calling this our enhanced side panel or version 7 by now. And many of you are already running the new version, so you're all set for this training session. If you're a current customer and you're not upgraded yet, or what I show you doesn't match what you have installed locally, don't worry about it. You can email customer success, all one word, at linkpoint360.com and get a status on that rollout and have the team help you out with that. Now, auto updates are shut off usually if you have a custom setup or you've deployed through Citrix or another similar platform. That's just to keep all of your settings intact. You're still more than welcome to upgrade. So while you didn't get the automatic update, we can certainly help you test a new version. Jana's team works with clients one-on-one to make sure that that's all smooth for you. So again, if you're not seeing this or you're interested in it, but you want to test it out a little bit before you expose it to your entire group, that's perfectly fine. We're here and happy to help you with that. And as always, upgrades are provided at no additional cost. So if this is something you're interested in, just let us know if you have not already. So as I mentioned, and as our title for today indicates, we are going to focus today on email recording. Now, LinkPoint Connect includes a lot more functionality than just that. We can do contact and other record creation. There's a lot of sync functionality. We haven't forgotten those, but we're going to be hosting separate spotlight sessions on other topics, and you are welcome to sign up for those through our news and events page. We'll make sure that you all get those links as well. So more specifically today, we are going to be taking a look at how to record inbound emails and then how to record outbound emails, recording attachments in conjunction with those emails, and then a few usability or sort of productivity things that go along with email recording. So editing how the email appears when you record it to Salesforce, creating your follow-up tasks or events when you're working with email, using Salesforce email templates, and configuring some settings that relate back to email recording specifically. So that should give you an idea of where we're going to be headed today. Let's go ahead and get started with the actual session. So give me 1 second to just get out of PowerPoint. And now, hopefully, you are seeing my Outlook. So if anyone's having trouble seeing that or hearing me, just put a little something in the chat, but I think we should be all good to go. Okay, so as a starting point with email recording, and a refresher for everyone who might be newer to the newer version of this, almost all LinkPoint Connect functionality has been consolidated to our side panel. And that includes the email recording. So that's where we're going to spend most of our time today. And I have made mine a lot larger than it needs to be. I've zoomed in and done some kind of funny things with it so that hopefully it's easier to see through GoToWebinar. But if yours isn't this large, don't panic. It's just me playing with my settings. When we talk about email recording, it's important to keep in mind that LinkPoint Connect and the side panel are email address centric. So that means we look in Salesforce for you for matches and related records based on email address, not necessarily the name of the person emailing you, but the email address they're using. So as a quick example, the email that I'm on here has Fred, and the side panel is populated because it did a search and it found matching records with that email address. If I switch real quick, just so that you can see the difference, Michael James is not in Salesforce. So I'm being served up some helpful contact and record creation things that we won't spend too much time on today, but I'm being told right up front that my email can't be recorded the way things are right now in CRM. So you're always going to want to make sure that you have your record maintenance taken care of. And that's, I think, the session we're doing in 2 weeks from now. But we're going to work today just on the email recording side of things. So emails get recorded to Salesforce, not just to regular records, but you have to keep in mind that we're looking at records in Salesforce that have an activity history on them. And that's because we record emails by default as a completed task. So if you're trying to record things or you're looking for certain different record types or objects here and you're not seeing them, it just might be that that's not available to you. One, because of your Salesforce permissions, we always honor those. And two, you have to be able to record the email to activity history. Now, I will mention that if you are working with Salesforce Enhanced Email or considering implementing that soon in your Salesforce environment, we can enable a setting for you so that you can record your emails there rather than just activity history. If you are using the tool out of the box and you also have Salesforce email object enabled, it's not going to automatically do that. So you're going to need to contact customer success and we'll make sure that we get that configuration enabled for you. My setup is not using that, so you're going to hear me talk about activity history a little more. Now, let's actually record an email, and we'll show you how simple that is. And I'm going to start with an inbound email, and because it's easiest for me to talk about it this way, I'm in my inbox. Now, I have been asked before, can I record emails in any other Outlook folders? And the answer is absolutely. So it doesn't matter what folder we're in, I'm just going to work out of the inbox because that's the easiest for me. Email recording is super simple. So you have to be on the email. You have to look at your side panel and say, what records do I have to work with? So you see my contact section here at the top found both Fred and Jake. So I could choose to record to them. I can click these arrows and pop up some of these extra sections. We'll just do a couple here and see there's a related account tied to either Fred or Jake. There are a couple of opportunities here. So I have a lot of different places I can choose to record. How do I do that? Super simple. Anywhere you see an empty checkbox, and there's one right there on Fred's record, when you click the checkbox on an inbound email, just sitting here in my inbox, we're going to instantly record the email to Salesforce. So you see a couple things happen. The first is that Fred moved from the top to the bottom area of my side panel. And the second thing you see is I have a little, it might be harder to see, but I have a little CRM category on the email. That way I know that I've recorded it when I'm sort of just looking at it contextually inside of Outlook. If all I wanted to do is record to Fred, I'm done. I can go about my business and I can take care of the next task at hand. Salesforce limits you to recording to up to 50 contacts, so we can just come up here and certainly tack Jake on to this if we needed to. We can choose to record this to an account or an opportunity or whatever else I have in this list. So let's pick an opportunity. And you see the email is going into Salesforce one time, but we're stacking down here now everywhere that it's been related to. And this gives you your history when you're looking at the email, so you remember where you placed it. You can search. So if you're looking to record the email to something or someone that it makes sense based on your workflow and relationships, but we're not going to automatically find that. if I could type today, we can go ahead and do a full search. So I've gone ahead and tried to find a different contact, and I'm going to go ahead and select that as well. So you see here how it's pretty quick and easy to find exactly what you want to work with and exactly where and how you want to record your emails to. Let's just go back and refresh this. If I made a mistake and I don't want this email actually related to Tom, I got the wrong Tom, I've changed my mind, I can come down and just uncheck the box, and it removes that relationship from the record and the email. So the email's still in Salesforce, but in this case, it's on Fred, Jake, and this opportunity. And you can keep sort of backing out of that if you need to make some changes. And for demo purposes, I'm just going to undo everything. Now, when you remove the last related object or record here, we also remove the item from Salesforce. So that email is gone. All right. For demo purposes, I backed all the way out because I want to start fresh again and show you a different way to record emails in your inbox, and it's even fewer clicks. So if you were using our classic UI, you may have been familiar with our Smart Record button. And what that does is in one click, it records the email to all matching contacts. We've kept that functionality, we've just retermed it. So if I'm looking at this email and I want to record to all the matching contacts and not really think about it, skip the top half of your panel, go down to the bottom in the Relate to Salesforce, and there's this link here that turns red when I mouse over it to accept suggestions. And you can see both Fred and Jake are listed. Single click, I've just recorded an email to 2 contacts in one shot. And in some cases, if there are a lot of people on here, it's going to show, the full list of those, and then you can always refine it and remove somebody or add somebody. Okay? So that's how to record emails. While we're on here, I want to show you how to include your attachment. So we'll kind of bounce around a bit, because this email has an attachment on it, and maybe it's a signed contract or something of value that I need to get into the CRM. Rule number 1, you have to record the email to at least one record. And it looks like we've done that here. Got Fred and Jake ready to go. So step 2 is to find your attachments section here on your side panel, and we'll pop that down. The side panel is seeing that the email has an attachment, and it's offering you that checkbox so that you can record it. So we'll just click, and now we've moved that attachment down to that bottom section. And now the attachment is being recorded to either notes and attachments or files, depending on what you're using in Salesforce, along with the 2 contact records that you're seeing there. If you've changed your mind, you've made a mistake, you don't want this, we can just certainly back that right out. Okay, so that's, and again, high level, we're sort of talking about how to get comfortable recording emails in the side panel. You have a lot of flexibility. The full search up here, I think if you click this little arrow, you can even pull down your last 10 search terms so you can quickly find records that you want to work with pretty often. So fairly easy. The way to record your outbound emails is very similar to this, and it's a little bit different than our classic UI. So let's pull that up. Okay. So what I have here is an outbound email. And what you'll see is different, let's just move this a bit, is I actually have a side panel inside my outbound email. And that's a bit different than what we've offered in the past. And I think this gives you a lot more flexibility to work with and refine exactly how you want your emails to move. And again, I've sort of blown this up just so hopefully you can see it pretty clearly on your webinar screen there. First really neat thing that I like to talk about is that we have settings in place now in this version that you can enable or disable, but that when I'm doing a reply or a forward, you see how I've popped open this email and the relationships are down here already. So we can retain those relationships on replies and forwards to make your life easier and make things quicker. And the thinking is, if you've recorded the inbound email to Fred and Jake and you're writing back to Fred and Jake, you're probably going to want to record your reply to those records. So you can inherit those references, we call them. You do not have to keep these. They are suggestions on an outbound email. Nothing happens until you hit send. So if I don't want this, I'm just going to remove Jake. If I want to change it and add the account, I'm going to add the account. Attachments work the exact same way. So if I need to record an outbound attachment, find attachments and select and add them to the bottom there. So it's the same look and feel for inbound and outbound, but there's that added bonus of if you've previously recorded an item in that conversation, we're going to inherit those relationships for you. Now, while we're talking about attachments and before I jump into some of the supporting features for this, I do want to note, because we get asked this a lot, that attachments are not recorded by default. That's why they're listed here. Let me back up, just show you again. That's why it's listed with the check mark. I have to do the checking or I have to take that action. You can actually configure this to automatically record attachments by default. And let me show you where you can turn that on. So in your side panel, inbound, outbound, wherever you are, down in the bottom right corner of that panel, you should see this preferences icon, and it's going to pop open the preferences pane. So for the configuration setting I'm speaking about now, we're going to go to, I believe it's under General, and skip down a little bit and see this option. It's the fourth one down, this auto select all email attachments. So mine's off by default. If you want to record all of your attachments for compliance purposes, you can check this box. Now I get a lot of people who say, well, I want to record all of my attachments except the Twitter icons that are in everyone's email signatures. That's not a problem either. You can refine, and I've already done that here, but you can refine the criteria that LinkPoint Connect uses to record the attachments by excluding certain file names or file extensions. So you see here, I've got a couple of the more common, Twitter icon culprits. You can certainly put whatever you need to in this list to meet that need for yourself. Anytime you make a change in here, you'll want to click the red X to save. Sometimes it's a little bit more effective to just restart Outlook for the changes to kick in. Some changes require that. So I just, as a best practice, recommend make your adjustments. And then when you're in a good spot in your daily workflow where you're not going to lose anything, just go ahead and give Outlook another restart and everything should kick in from there. I'm going to uncheck this because I don't want to automatically record my attachments. And now while we're still in this email, and I haven't sent it yet, so nothing's really happened, we've just talked a lot about things happening, I want to talk for a few minutes about some extra productivity features we have around the email recording. So first, there's an option to change how the email appears when it goes to Salesforce. So emails get recorded in using the subject of the email. So here I have this, reply, next step, subscription happens to be this. Now, for my example, it's this sort of the second time I've gone back and forth with Fred, but maybe this is like the 15th email in a thread. And at this point, the topic has changed and it's not what's next. Maybe it's I've purchased and now I need a training. So when we record this to his, in this case, we're going to record to Fred and also to an account, and it hits that activity history, you don't want 15 instances of the same subject line or task subject when you're looking at that, because it doesn't really tell you what the conversation is probably about now. So to get better insight on that, we offer you the ability to edit the email subject and body when you're recording to Salesforce. So how do we do that? We're going to go down to the bottom of the side panel, big orange button that says View Salesforce Fields, and we're going to get a box that pops up. And you can see here, I've got the subject field, and it says comments. That's where we'll inject the body of the email when it goes to Salesforce. And you can change this. So let's just to anything that you want or need to so that it stands out better to you and your colleagues when it's recorded back to Salesforce. I like to point out that this changes this for Salesforce. It does not change this for the email. So Fred will not know I've changed a subject line or that I've come in here and maybe deleted some of this and cleaned this up a bit. Okay. When you're happy with those changes, you can go ahead and click the green check. Now, I'm working on an outbound email. You can do this in your inbox on an inbound. I just happen to be showing it to you here, but if you just want to update how an inbound email looks, it works exactly the same way. I think that feature is super helpful. It is not on by default. So if you like what you see and you're not seeing that happen on your computer, you have to go and turn that on. So let me show you where it is. We're going to go back to the preferences pane, excuse me. Let's pop that open. And I believe this one is in advanced. So let's just get rid of this and go into the advanced preferences. And we're going to come all the way down to the bottom here, the last checkbox. Now mine's on so that I could show you that feature. Yours will probably not be checked. So check the option to allow me to edit the subject and body fields when I record emails. And again, you'll make that selection, you'll click your little red X, and I recommend as a best practice, when you're at a good stopping point, just restart Outlook. It gives LinkPoint Connect a little bit of a reboot and make sure that all those settings click in for you. Okay, let's go back. Another productivity feature that we have sort of wrapped into the email recording process, and again, you don't have to edit your email subject and body, and you don't have to do the next thing I'm going to show you, but it might be helpful to your workflow to work on your follow-up tasks or your events while you're doing your actual email correspondence or maintenance. So what do I mean by that? My personal practice, when I'm writing back to someone, I'm usually either offering to schedule a training for them, or I'm offering to send them something, or I need a reminder to do something for them a few weeks from now. So I can write, hey, Fred, I'll send you that report in 2 weeks. Then I have to send the email, then I have to remember to send him the report in 2 weeks. To take care of that, in this top bar here, the related to Salesforce bar, there's this little clock icon. If you click that, we're going to pop up what we call a snap form. And excuse me, yours will look a little different than mine because what we do is we look in Salesforce at your task page layout, your task fields, and your requirements. So these are mine or Sally's. And we offer you the option right here to go ahead and create a follow-up task. So I can go through the motions and set my due date to remind me in 2 weeks to take care of this. Note I have a lot of required fields. They're all marked red. You have to fill them in before you can save or move forward. So we're respecting all of those Salesforce rules. Because the email is related to Fred and this account, you see here my task is automatically related to Fred and this account. You can change that if you want. So you can go in and click the little magnifying glass and look up a different record if you need to tweak the follow-up. Also, by default, my task is assigned to me as Sally today. But if you need to assign the task to someone else, you could certainly look up a colleague and change who the task is going to be assigned to delegate some of that work. Subjects always inherit the subject of the email you're on, but you can override that. And essentially you can go through this process, and I'm spending a lot of time talking through it, but it's pretty quick once you sort of get acquainted with it. Update your certain fields, click your green check mark, and now behind the scenes, because we're on an outbound email, that task is queued up and also ready to go. Okay, so that's how you create a follow-up task. This also works with events. So to change that configuration, if you prefer to create events for your Salesforce calendar rather than a task, you can go back to your preferences pane. And I believe it's back in general, so let's see if I'm right. Yep, okay. And your third check mark here, you can see it's allowing me to create follow-ups when I'm doing an email recording, so that's always going to be checked. Task is checked here by default. So if you want to work with events instead, I just clicked too many times. You can go ahead and click on events and change that. And again, click the red X to save the change out. And I always recommend a restart just as a best practice. I'm just setting mine back. So if you prefer to work with events, you can. That's where you would change that. And we'll go back here. Lastly, around sort of email recording and email productivity in general, I want to spend like a few minutes on Salesforce email templates. And I know we have some customers who have 9 million templates, and we have some customers who don't use them at all. So I don't want to spend too much time here. If it's something you want to see more in depth, definitely you can let me know. The most recent version of our enhanced side panel does include support for email templates. That was something we heard some feedback on. Works pretty simply. Recommendation number 1, address your email. Have it ready to go so that LinkPoint will know who you're sending this to. It makes the merge fields 10 times easier. Second, you're going to launch the template window. So up in the top of my side panel, it's the third icon. I know this section's a little cluttered, but see, it's the 2 little boxes here. And I'm going to launch what looks like a really big window, but it's actually pretty simple. So the first step, and again, everything here matches what's in Salesforce. So you have to be managing Salesforce email templates. You have to have access to them based on whatever your admin's given you to be able to do this. But step 1, you pick your template. As I click on different ones, you can see different things changing. I'm going to use this one. Step number 2, you pick what you want to use for merge fields. The template here is telling me that there are fields for account, case, contact, and user. I make it complicated looking for demo purposes. It's not hard. It's going to look at the recipients on the email. So I've got Fred and Jake, and it's going to start down here recommending records for me. So I pick this account. I have 2 cases here. That's the correct case. I happen to know it. Here are my contacts. I want to put Fred in. And as I'm checking these options, you see on this far right side, my merge fields are starting to fill in. So Fred's name's popping in. For the user, you may have to search for this. It's sort of a quirk here. So I looked up Sally, and not everyone's using the user merge fields, but you can see now I'm populating in my signature. The other great thing about this preview section here is now that I know that I've kind of gone through, and you see my green check marks here in the middle, so I know I've gone ahead and selected the records for each of the object types that are being considered by my template. The template preview shows me that there's a gap here. So there's something in the template that's not being picked up. I can choose to enter something here, or I can do it in the next step. Okay. When I'm happy with this, and as you get comfortable using these, this takes about 2 seconds. I'm just spending a little extra time here. We're going to click the green check. It's asking me if I want to override my subject line. Let's just leave it. And you can see immediately that it's gone ahead and it's injected that whole template with all the merge fields. It skipped to the thing I left blank. And I can go ahead and proofread and add what I need to. And you can alter this. So if you need to make changes and make it a little bit more custom to whoever you're sending to, you have total flexibility over that. It's meant to keep it a little simpler for you to send repetitive correspondence out, right? Now that we've done all of this, I've spent way too much time on all these different features on the outbound email. You can click send, and that's going to take care of everything we've spent time on. So the email will get recorded to the 2 records I selected. It'll change how it appears in the activity history. It's going to create a follow-up task, and I didn't have to type anything here, which was really awesome. So we'll go ahead and hit send. It's thinking because it had to do 10 things. And with that, we have recorded our outbound email. Okay. Email recording sounds like it includes a whole lot, and it certainly does. When I present on it, I try to just go through the system functionality at that high level as best as I can. We'll take a second and look at your questions just a minute. I do want to show you, and hopefully my VM is cooperating today, because I just lost my mouse. There we go. Where the emails actually go. So to see a recorded email, I'm down in my side panel in this related to Salesforce header, and I have an extra icon. It's the box with an arrow, okay? And if I click that, and I probably have to log into Salesforce. Let's see. Yep, hang on. All right. So when I click that, we can see where and how that particular, this was my inbound email, so where and how that got recorded back into the system. So there we go. Here's my email. You can see the subject line that we pulled in, the body of the email. It's in as a completed email. You can see here that it's been related to more than one record. And if we pull back up to Fred, let's just do this. Okay, what you're going to see here in my activity history stream is this was an older email, and it'll put it in based off of the send date of the email. So here's the one we just recorded inbound. Here's the one we just recorded outbound. And remember, I had to change this as my subject when I changed it. So here it is showing up in our activity history. And when we look at it, you can see this is what I changed it to when I was doing the email subject change. Here's the original email body down here. And you can see we've still retained that original. So you can tell what you actually sent someone versus what you changed it to. And here's that follow-up task that I set for in 2 weeks that I created as part of that outbound process. So now I don't even have to worry about my follow-up because this will remind me that I have to do something on June 4th. Okay. So that covers everything. Hopefully I didn't go through it too quickly, but that covers everything that I had prepared to show you for today's training. Again, staying email recording focused. I do want to switch gears now and see, I haven't been looking, so let me just pull up my question box and take a look at some of the questions that have come through. So if you have questions and you haven't thrown them over, go right ahead. Sometimes it's helpful to talk through some use cases too. I'm showing you sort of the best practice out of the box steps. But if you need to see something again, just let me know. This is sort of the free Q&A time here. So give me a second to check over these. Okay, Michael was asking about, and Michael, I just want to make sure I covered what you needed because I see there's a few comments here, so just let me read through those. So talking about when you're recording an email and also including the attachment in one step. So again, by default, we're not going to be recording attachments automatically. If you had that setting that I showed you turned on, then you wouldn't have to check the box. So what am I talking about? Right now, I'm not recording attachments automatically. So to Michael's point, I had to pick Fred, then I have to pick the sample PDF, right? If you have the attachment auto record setting I showed you in preferences on, then this will automatically get recorded once you make a contact selection. Okay. And Michael, if you need more information on that, let me know. I think we might have covered it all. So let me go back up to the next question here. Sorting. Okay, good question. Let me see if I can remember. Otherwise, I will phone a friend and have Yana help me out. So when you're looking at a group, like Brian's talking about here to me, like opportunities to record an email, and my test data is so nice and neat. I only have one account and 3 opportunities. Nobody's Salesforce looks like that. So I totally understand that. So when you're going to record an email, Brian's asking about sorting through the opportunities that are shown. So if someone or a contact or contacts have a lot of opportunities associated with them, it can be a lot of scrolling, and you're absolutely right. So I believe that the way to refine this, and Yana can interrupt if I'm wrong, is you have sort of your initial, excuse me, your initial search results here, and you can search within that search using this quick find. So for example, I'm going to click that, and I'm going to look for new. And I don't have very unique opportunity names here, but if you know kind of what you're looking for within that, it filtered down from 3 opportunities to this one, which I happen to sort of know was what I was looking for. Yana, do you know any other ways to make it easier to find records in the results that I might have missed?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Yana is here. So, Jill, you pretty much covered one side of it. There's another option to sort. If you right-click on the group, you will have sort options available from Salesforce. So your default in Salesforce is set on opportunity name. It's filtered by opportunity name when you search for an opportunity. But here we have all the fields that are available to us, and we can change that sorting order. So you can start with that, change the sorting order to your preference, and then work with Quick Find to drill down even more.
Excellent. Yeah, I always forget about the right click on things. I usually do things the hard way. So that sounds like a really good way to start narrowing things down. Brian, I'll have to see if that answers your question or helps your workflow a little bit. But that should help people who have a lot more of a single object as far as the record count here. Thank you, Yana. Let's see what else we have here coming through. This we covered. Let's see what this one is. Jay is asking, let me just read it out loud and see if I can come up with an answer. What is the suggested course of action if I have sent an email for which the recipient email address is in Salesforce, but LinkPoint says that the record is not found? Okay, so if I'm understanding right, you're saying, Jay, that you're fairly certain that the person you're working with, their email address is in Salesforce, but LinkPoint's not finding the match. So if that's the way we're headed, Yana, can you come up with maybe a case where that might happen?
The only reason that I see this happen is if the email address is slightly different, if there's a typo or something in Salesforce. For it to work, you can search by name in the side panel. And when that contact comes up, just cross-check the email addresses to make sure that they're identical. If the email address is not there or wouldn't display, that's the answer. We can't really match it by the email address.
Okay, yeah, and that was what I had been thinking. Remember, I started this whole demo talking about how we're email address centric. So just quadruple checking that it's in there and that it's an exact match. I believe the new version by default looks at all email address fields. So if you have contacts with a main and then a secondary or a home email address, we should see all of those. Is that correct, Yana?
Correct, as long as that it's a true email format field.
Right, okay. I have a lot more questions, so I'm just going to move ahead. And Jay, if that didn't help, we can totally connect later. I'm being asked, Wayne wants to know about where do I go to create a task. So today, as we were talking about being email recording focused, you can create a follow-up task from any recorded email by clicking. It's kind of a funny little stopwatch icon. I guess it's like a little reminder. I'm in this blue banner and I'm still in my inbox, but it's the same on the Outbound. And you just click the follow-up icon to launch that task form that we saw earlier. Okay. And just as a sneak peek for, I believe, the next training session, you can create a task from other places. So anywhere you see our little form icon, I can just go ahead and create a task that isn't sort of related to anything to start with. So if you're just looking to create a fresh task. Let's see, is it recommended we configure our email panels the same way you have to make this work better with a cleaner view? Allison, LinkPoint's pretty configurable in lots of directions. So if there's a certain way that it works best for you and you can't get it there, we can help consult with you. I move my panel for the outbound email to the left side of my screen so that when I'm demoing, it's clearer when I'm going inbound or outbound. You don't have to shift it one way or the other. The zoom factor is totally up to you. I think it's click Control and scroll your mouse wheel. I can make my side panel bigger or smaller. Again, that's totally up to you. You can drag, there's like a little grabby thing here, and make it larger or not. Again, totally up to you. So there's best practice, and then there's what works best for you. Stephen, I see your comment. It doesn't look like you have the enhanced side panel, so you can go ahead and email customer success at linkpoint360.com, and we will help you get upgraded. I know we started by saying that not everyone has the upgrade by default for a variety of reasons, but we can definitely get you upgraded. Same for you, Janice. If that's something that you want to look at, we can absolutely set up a case. I help manage them, and Yana does the actual configuration work. So you have the dynamic duo here, so we can take a look at getting your account upgraded. Janice, for your account, probably recommend having a few people test first, just to make sure that you're happy with it, and then we'll go ahead and we can roll out. Let's see the next question here. Emails and attachments remain in Salesforce even after the actual email or attachment are deleted. I believe so, Janet. So I can go, Yana can correct me if I'm wrong. If I go ahead and record all of this and then I delete this email from Outlook, the items remain in Salesforce.
I would have to double check on that.
I know in the classic UI it stayed.
Right. In this version, it might be different. This version is fully data-driven from Salesforce, so if we don't find a match, well, I guess if there's no email, we will never try to match it. But we can double check on that.
Yep.
And get back.
That's a good question. I hadn't thought of that one before, Janet, because if you saw my actual inbox, it's a lot messier than Sally's. So I just folder everything and don't really delete much unless it's spam. So we will, Yana will like kind of click around and look into that, and we can get a confirmation for everybody a little later, or even as a follow-up. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, good question. We have a different Brian here. Can you add multiple emails to Salesforce at one time with the new version? Brian, the answer is unfortunately right now, no. Definitely have heard this feedback from customers. So what Brian's talking about is selecting multiple emails in Outlook and then in one shot recording them all to the same place. It's not an error. It's actually going back to what Yana just said about the new version being very data-driven. So it's all a one-to-one, one email to, well, one to sort of many. It's not many to many. One to many. So we have one email at a time going into the selected Salesforce records, and that email only goes into Salesforce once. So it's keeping all of the data cleaner and making it easier to do your reporting off of. So the same email doesn't go in multiple times. And also, when you're doing multiple emails, you have to do them one at a time to make sure they're going to the right place. So if you're used to doing the bulk recording, that is a little bit of a shift. Some of my users find, let me just back out of this as I break stuff in my VM. There we go. So some users find, even though it's a little tedious to go in and click a lot, if you're on the email and you just click accept, and then go to the next email and click accept, it's more clicks than doing the bulk record, but it gets the same thing done with as few as possible with the new way. So to your point, if you're doing several hundred emails through mail merge, that might get a little bit crazy. So that's something to keep in mind too. Let's see. Someone's asking, how do I get the control panel? So again, the preferences where I'm making all those little edits to how I want LinkPoint Connect to work. Anywhere you have a side panel, go all the way down to the bottom right corner. It's this button. It looks like little, I don't know, slidey things, 3 lines with little dots on them. Kind of hard to see. That's going to pop out your preferences. And then that's where you can make those changes, like enabling the email edit or working with the follow-up tasks. All right, let's see. Yeah, if you don't, Michael, I don't know if you don't have this in the bottom right corner. I can't think of any reason why the preferences pane wouldn't show in the enhanced side panel. So if you have your upgraded version, it looks like this, not the classic UI, definitely connect with us later. Just email customersuccess@linkpoint360.com. Yana or I will connect and take a look and make sure that you're looking in the right place and that it's working the way we expect it to, because you should always have access to that. Let's see here. Okay, I will read this one aloud and maybe call on Yana for help. If you select an opportunity to sync, does it automatically tag it to the contact in the email to the matching contact in the opportunity contact role? So actually, Joe, I might need you to clarify a little bit more. Are you talking about syncing opportunities, or are you talking about recording an email to an opportunity? Because that's going to be two completely different answers, and I want to go in the right direction with you. And if it's a syncing thing, I usually end up deferring to Yana anyway, so we could probably connect with you offline if that's the way you're going. I'll answer it backward just in case, and for everyone else here, you don't have to pick a contact to record an email, so you can just pick an opportunity like I did here. And then when we go look at it, if I'm still logged in and it's going to cooperate today, you'll see that the email is related to just the opportunity. And I'll give you a non-answer of an answer. So here it is on my opportunity. You'll see this on related tables throughout Salesforce based on however you have Salesforce configured. So if opportunities roll up to accounts, or if contact items roll up to opportunities or accounts, and I'm not a Salesforce admin, so I apologize. You'll see it wherever those roll-ups automatically happen, but LinkPoint's not going to automatically start relating things extra for you outside of what you're telling it to with those checkboxes in the side panel. So, yep, so exactly, Joe. Okay, good. So we got the answer. Good. I was kind of hoping I was getting where you were going. Great. So yes, you would want to, in that case, select both the opportunity. Let me go to meeting out of my way. The opportunity, and then also pick a contact to see it in all the different places you would want to see it in Salesforce. Okay. Is there a way to have just the most recent reply on an email thread be recorded instead of having to record the entire thread each time someone replies? Well, there's a couple of ways to work with that. The first is just a workflow thing. If I'm in the middle of writing back and forth with you, I do this personally, and we're working something out, I don't always record every email in that back and forth because I know we're not quite done yet, and I've got 6 emails from you in my inbox, and the 7th one that comes in where I know we're kind of done, I'll just record that one. That's just a workflow thing. That's not a LinkPoint thing. If you're looking to keep things looking cleaner, you can, here's my inbound, maybe it's the 10th thing you've sent me, even though it's not, just pretend. You can click the View Salesforce fields if you have this turned on. And if this kept scrolling forever and ever, you can clean it up and just keep going and delete so that you're not seeing the whole thread get recorded. If this happened to be a really long thread, Janice, so it just kind of depends on where you are with it. I believe that because of the field in Salesforce that this particular box, the comments, maps to, I think it caps you at 32,000 characters. So if you have 5 weeks worth of back and forth, it's going to get cut off at the bottom somewhere. So the older part of the thread will get cut off. I have users who just come in here and clean it up anyway, just from here. But you might get an error message that says, hey, your email's too big. You need to kind of cut it down before you can go forward with that. And that's what's causing that. Okay. Get rid of this. I'm going to double check because it, click the right box. looks like I might have caught up with the questions, but I want to give everyone another minute. Let me read through the list and give everyone a second to comment. And of course, I think a couple people just did. So let's see. I definitely am caught up. So let's see. How do I switch link point to be on the right side for outbound and left side for inbound? I think you just click on the header and click and hold and drag it from one side to the other. It can be a little bit touchy, Wayne, so if it's a little frustrating, that's an Outlook thing, and I apologize. So you have to be on your outbound email. I think you can't move it when it's in your inbox. So this is stuck here on my right. But when you have your outbound email screen up, you should be able to drag it over. Our support team might be able to help if you just can't get it. Yana could probably speak to that a little bit, but it can get a little quirky for you. Let's see, the next question. All right, I'm going to read it out loud and see if I can. When I forward an email to person A, which I previously sent to person B, is there any residual association with person A? Well, let me see if I answer your question, Jay, by saying it back to you differently. So if I have this email here from Fred and I record it to, where'd he go? Here we go. To Fred and Jake. The email, this version of it, the inbound email, is on Fred and Jake. Then let's hit reply. Let's just do this again. I'm going to pop it out so we can see things here. Okay, so now I'm going to reply, and I'm going to reply or forward it to, let's just send this to someone completely different. Let's actually pretend it's a forward, and I'm going to send it to, who should we send this to? Send it to me. Now we're sending it to someone completely unrelated. You have the option here to inherit those references, right? So if you leave them like this, then that's your residual association. I'm not replying to Fred anymore, but the inherited reference down here has Fred. It's super simple to get rid of that. You just uncheck it. And then I don't think I'm in Salesforce as myself, but then you would just go ahead and search here, or it would automatically find the match, and you would just go ahead and add the new people. If you really aren't feeling this inherited references thing, remember you can shut that off. I don't think I showed you, so let me show you real quick. If you don't want it to recommend who your outbound gets recorded to based on your inbound, back to your preferences. I believe that one is in advanced, so we'll go to advanced. Yes, okay, and now we're getting fancy, but the two here that start with remove, so you can tell it to not include past references when you're forwarding. So if you forward a lot of emails, maybe you reply a lot and that's fine, but when you forward emails, it's internal and you don't want to have to uncheck Fred every time you send an email to a colleague. You can go ahead and just remove them just on replies or just on forwards or both. So a little bit more refinement. If you don't like it at all, just check both boxes. Red X, probably a restart to make sure it kicks in. Let's see, almost caught up here and we're doing good on time. So just to confirm, yes, I think it might be on my last slide, Michael, but that is the right email address. So all your other pending questions and things, questions about the upgrades, customer success at linkpoint360.com is correct. And since we are coming up on time, I am going to stop here. It looks like I'm fairly caught up. If I missed something, I will not miss it for long. We can certainly catch up after the call. I want to throw a slide up real quick. So let me just switch to PowerPoint and humor me for 2 seconds here. Okay, because I think that this will help with a couple of the other questions that I'm seeing as we close out. And I do thank all of you for all the questions. They're really great. Hopefully, sharing those together will help not just you, but your sort of other customers understand how different people approach the data different ways and kind of help with those. Another way that we can help with all your questions, obviously, is to share some resources with you. So that's why I wanted to take 2 seconds and throw this slide up before we close out for the day. We do have an online knowledge base. We have step-by-step instructions with screenshots of everything I've just shown you. So if you want to refer to an article, you can absolutely do that. There's some extra videos squirreled away somewhere. You can also sign up for the other trainings we have in our spotlight sessions. Like I said today, this was email recording focused, but there's a lot we do around configuring the software. I think the next session is on June 4th, if I'm not mistaken, and it's about record maintenance. So creating contacts, how to update events and opportunities, how to work with our forms. So if that's something that's helpful, you can go to our news and events page and sign up. When I send this recording, I'll also include links to those as well, so you can sign up. And then 2 other helpful links in that famous email address there at the bottom. If you're having a technical issue, something's not working right, support's your best bet. So that team is going to go ahead, they'll reach out to you directly from a ticket that comes from that email, and they'll connect with you to help you out. If you have questions about best practices, resources, your account, why am I not upgraded yet? That's the customer success email that you're going to want to use. That goes to me. Half the time I send things back to Yana, so you're not going to be left alone. That's probably the best way to get non-technical assistance. Okay, so thanks again for joining us. I hope this session was helpful and that it helps you get the most out of your LinkPoint Connect experience. So it was great chatting with you all, and I look forward to continuing to work with all of you moving forward.